this point, Drew, you've done three mock drafts, three full first-round mock drafts for the 2023 cycle. And obviously, we are very deep into the college football season. A lot of the evaluations to this point have been completed. Of course, we're just waiting on the off-season aspect of things at this juncture. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And Drew, I hope you're prepared to defend your 32 selections.
No, it's 31 selections.
Oh, excuse me.
31
selections. Of
people
course,
have forfeited picks.
Yes. The Miami Dolphins forfeited a pick. As a matter of fact, they actually had 2 first-round picks. They forfeited one because of tampering, and then they traded the other away to acquire Bradley Chubb from the Denver Broncos at the trade deadline. Right at the top with the first overall pick, you have the Houston Texans selecting Bryce Young, quarterback from Alabama. Drew, I don't know how much really needs to be said about this particular selection, considering how we feel about Bryce Young at Couch Potato General Manager. I'm thoroughly impressed, and I'm actually more impressed with what he's done with this year as compared to his Heisman campaign last year. Why Young above the other quarterbacks? Why do you have him landing here with the first overall pick?
I said it in previous mock drafts, and I've said it previously before the season started. I said if Houston is picking at the top half of the draft, within the first 3 picks, that means that the quarterback who just got benched this past week, or for this game coming up on Sunday, Davis Mills, that he's not performing up to par. And not that I ever thought that, he was the guy, but he got a shot. Didn't work out. I don't think the team is equipped for pretty much anybody to come in there at the current moment. And right now, Bryce Young is the guy. And I said it here in the post, man. He's the most consistent. He might be the most consistent player in the country, period. It doesn't matter what he has in terms of his offense. He just happens to do his job and produce. And that's what he's going to do for the Houston Texans, man.
They're going to be detractors, obviously. Not everybody's going to have Bryce Young as quarterback 1. There's concerns in terms of the frame, the size, so on and so forth. Of course, we've seen a shift. We've seen a shift in the NFL where evaluators are placing less emphasis on the statuesque, the prototypical quarterback in terms of their size, right? Don't get me wrong. There are times where we're having a taller quarterback, a more sturdily built quarterback will benefit you. But the playmaking ability of Bryce Young, I think the attribute that I like the most about him and what really truly separates him is his vision. And that's an element of the quarterback evaluation that I've kind of incorporated over the last several years. As the game has changed, as we move to more spread principles at the NFL level, how well do you see the field? You know what I mean? That those secondary and tertiary reads in the offense, and then of course what he does off schedule. I think your ability to see and understand what's going on with all 21 on the field, right, outside of your sub who makes the 22nd, the quarterback, of course, and being able to kind of slow things down, manipulate, get his shoulders square, because some quarterbacks, they don't necessarily need a handful of quarterbacks. They don't necessarily need to have great mechanics. Bryce Young still finds a way to get his mechanics in line, despite the fact that he may be extending the play or playing off script. So really impressive. But I really think that Kona vision, that old Madden Kona vision with Bryce Young, I think is really what separates him from some of the other prospects in the class. So there we have it. Bryce Young, first player off the board to the Houston Texans with the 2nd overall pick. Here's where things get interesting, right? And I think it
goes off the rails for some.
Yes, you'll get the most pushback regarding this particular selection, especially with Anthony Richardson right now playing, FSU, time. You know how that's going to go. And of course, you're going to have those folks who feel like C.J. Stroud may not necessarily even be number 2. He could be number 1. He could be the top quarterback in the class. But you have been steadfast in your evaluation, your appreciation, your grade of Jaren Hall. You think he's the 2nd best quarterback in the class. Why is that?
Ball placement. He's not playing with the top talent like a CJ Stroud, right? Or in this case, obviously Bryce Young's not either. But we see he's still doing his thing. For me, he's playing in a pro style-ish offense. They like to run the football. He can turn his back to the defense, and he can get the ball down the field. When you talk about a CJ Stroud, there's talk about, that offense that he's in, it makes things very, very easy. That's not necessarily true with Jaren Hall, who lost both his receivers for quite some time, and he was still winning football games. They lost some games without those receivers, but he won some games without those receivers as well. So, you know, it's just, for me, he stayed the course for me. You know what I mean? He hasn't changed. And, you know, I don't know, man. I think a lot of people aren't going to like to pick number one because they're going to be scouting the helmet. We're going to be talking about Zach Wilson, who, you know, another guy who got benched this week. And I'm looking on Twitter, bro. People are just like, Jaren Hall, like, you know, they're associating those two players, and they're two completely different players. Because the one thing that Jaren Hall does very, very well is he takes care of the football. He doesn't make too many mistakes. He rarely makes a mistake, right? Even with the receivers he didn't have, he wasn't forcing passes in there. He was throwing balls where he was supposed to put them, taking what the defense gave him. And he's that new age quarterback. He can run around. He can make people miss, but he can also, you know, keep plays alive to get the ball down the football field. So, I mean, we can argue till the cows come home, but you know, if you're not watching him and you thinking about Zach Wilson, they're two completely different players, man. Zach Wilson has a very good and live arm, but he doesn't take care of the football.
Yeah, and Zach Wilson gets sloppy with his mechanics.
Yep.
You know,
a little bit of pressure, and you know,
he doesn't appear to be a student of the game. You know, I think Jaren Hall is a more mature player, number one, and then of course, you know, it's very businesslike. His approach is very businesslike. You know what I mean? And I agree with you. People are going to scout the helmet. They're going to juxtapose Jaren Hall versus what we're seeing of Zach Wilson. Of course, Zach Wilson is being benched in favor of Mike White in New York. The Jets are playing great defense, and they feel like, you know, especially considering that Zach Wilson isn't taking accountability for his play, his poor play. You know, you're not going to get that from Jaren Hall, right? You're not going to get excuses. You're not going to get him suggesting that he isn't part of the problem if things aren't going well. But it's going to come down to talent and the projection and the traits and so on and so forth. So with respect to that, as compared to the Will Levises, the Anthony Richardsons, the CJ Stroud, you know, do you think do you really believe that he measures up against those guys?
Yeah. Because I mean, when you talk about Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, you're talking about guys who are super raw, you know, who you know, GMs are going to look at and say, okay, if those guys, well, I don't know, I guess it depends on where they get drafted. But me, if you're really a raw quarterback, I'm thinking you're probably going to sit a year. We'll get us a guy, we'll run it for 1 year. You'll learn behind that guy, and maybe at some point during the season, maybe we're faltering, or that guy gets hurt, and we gotta throw you in there. But yeah, man, I just there's just. He's done more with less, and there's no question in terms of, is it the offense? Again, with CJ Stroud, it's a wide open offense. Receivers open all the time, bro. Just all the time, right? And I think he is a timing and rhythm player, CJ Stroud is. So when he's off rhythm, I don't know if you're gonna see the best of CJ Stroud, but I think with Jaren Hall, it doesn't necessarily have to, he's not necessarily a timing and rhythm quarterback. He can play off schedule and do those things. So.
All right, we'll leave it there on Jaren Hall. So we have Jaren Hall going second overall to the Carolina Panthers, second quarterback off the board. With the third selection, you have Will Anderson.
The Bears.
Very, very talented edge out of Alabama. Of course, going into this particular cycle, Will Anderson was really the prohibitive favorite as the first overall pick. I've said it before, I'll say it again. He really didn't have anywhere to go but down, but he's not going too far. He slides because, of course, quarterbacks typically, the need at the quarterback position gets guys pushed up the board. Will Anderson could very well be the top player in the class. You have him landing in Chicago. Of course, Chicago needs help along the offensive line, but you just think as far as obviously pass rush is a premium, and the fact that it also happens to be a need for the Bears, the player's just too good to pass up here.
Yeah, you got Robert Quinn, who's out of there. You got Roquan Smith, who's out of there. They're trading away players, but they're they're still pushing teams to the very limit in terms of end of game. I mean, there's a couple of games that the Bears maybe should have won, you know, but they just couldn't pull it out at the end. And I think here, like you said, offensive line is and maybe they trade out. Maybe if they're picking third overall, they trade out and they say we'll trade down and we'll scoop one of those, you know, one of the top 5, top 6 offensive tackles or something like that. But right here, man, it's too rich for your blood. You know what I'm saying? This is you know, quote unquote, the best player in college football for the past 2 seasons, right? He definitely would have been the first guy off the board last
Yep.
year. No
Yep.
doubt about it. And like you've been saying, he had nowhere to go but down, right? Because he's been at the top since I don't know when, right? So
yeah.
I
it's hard living up to that.
Yeah,
it's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
And you know, he wasn't as productive this year, but when you didn't miss him, like you didn't wonder where he was at.
Right.
You know,
the eye in the sky still was seeing Will Anderson make plays.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And he can do that for the Bears here. And I think if they don't plan to trade out here, it's Will Anderson a bust, bro. Like get him a go. Get him and go.
I wonder about, you know, the projection to the next level as it pertains to his ceiling, right? Are we getting Will Anderson and Will Anderson? And this happens at times with Bama players. And this is just a hypothetical. This isn't necessarily my thought with respect to Will Anderson. But there have been, you know, quality players, good NFL players that come out of Alabama, and they kind of already been maxed out. They've already been kind of maxed out, having played at Alabama in that system, and they didn't really have another level to necessarily unlock. That's kind of my lingering question. Very talented. He's a top 10 pick in my eyes, but I wonder if there's more. If we can get some more out of him. If somebody else, some NFL coaching, which at times doesn't necessarily teach you how to do things, but where and when to do things, right? Can we unlock another level to Will Anderson? That's going to be my question. I'll be interested to see that. But you have Will Anderson landing with the Chicago Bears 3rd overall with the 4th pick in Drew's 2023 NFL Mock Draft 3.0. You have Jalen Carter, big defensive tackle, interior defensive lineman from Georgia, landing in Las Vegas. The Raiders obviously need a lot of help on either side of the ball, frankly, particularly with some expiring contracts. But they've been really, really bad defensively. Very bad. And Carter may have eclipsed Will Anderson as the best prospect overall in this class. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I couldn't argue if the Bears went Jalen Carter before they went Will Anderson, right?
Right.
But since I have it how I have it, yeah, I mean, Carter he's a disruption. There's something to be said about a defensive tackle who can not only do damage in terms of stuff in the run, you know, causing stuff to go, you know, the other way.
Sure.
There's also to be something said to a guy who can actually rush the passer from that position.
Right.
And when you talk about Chandler Jones on one side and Max Crosby on the other, who cares who's next to Jalen Carter? It doesn't matter at that point because now everybody's one-on-one, except for Jalen Carter. Or pick your poison. Pick your poison. I would assume you're going to double Jalen Carter and you'll do something on the outside to protect yourself from the other two guys. And this automatically takes the Raider defense up a level, right?
Right.
You know, I think this right here. I think the first 4 picks. I think they almost locks, man. You have to do it. It has to be quarterback for the first 2, and I think he's got to be D-line for the next 2, man. Period.
Yeah, if it stays this way in terms of the top 4 picks, I tend to agree with you. I may not necessarily agree wholeheartedly on that 2nd overall pick, but I do like Jaren Hall. I think Jaren Hall's a lot better than I think the masses understand or care to believe. Jalen Carter is really interesting. You know, he's been considered the best prospect on Georgia's defense, even going back to last year.
Yep.
Despite all of the first round selections on the defensive side of the ball, you know, the wide thought here, the overall, you know, consensus with respect to that is that he's the best prospect among all those guys, including Jordan Davis and Trayvon Walker, who went 1st overall last season, or this past draft. So great player here. I've even heard some comparisons in terms of his athleticism, in terms of his hips, in terms of that lower body explosion to Warren Sapp.
I knew it. I knew you were gonna say it, bro.
Warren Sapp. I mean,
he's so much bigger and wider, bro.
Yes,
he's so much bigger and wider.
He's more imposing than Warren Sapp ever was.
Crazy,
so,
man.
yeah, Jalen Carter is a special player, and I'm leaning towards him being the top overall player, rated prospect in this class as well. So, got the Raiders going defensive line with the 4th overall pick. That takes us to the 5th pick, and you're going back on the defensive side of the ball. And Seattle, of course, has 2 first-round selections. Of course, they get that additional first-round selection with the Russell Wilson trade. You have them adding some teeth to their pass rush with B.J. Ojulari out of LSU.
Yes, this guy is. I mean, I've been watching him since last year, and he's spectacular, man. Off the edge, as far as I'm concerned, he's the most explosive guy off the edge. Speed to power. He's got the bend. He has the little dip that he can add in. He's got tons of moves that he can use. He's great against the run, and he's a guy who can drop back and pass coverage if you want to get cute and play some pass and get his hands on slot receivers, tight ends, whomever it may be. I think that, Seattle's one of their biggest issues is they can't really, not gonna say they can't really stop the run, but they've struggled to stop the run this year.
Right.
And I think he adds to that. He can, again, defend the run and he can come off the edge. Yeah, man,
There have been some really good prospects that have come out of LSU, but there's always kind of been a weakness. Something that you could point to that they really needed to adjust, whether it be functional strength, their ability to hold up in the run game, or perhaps affect the passer. Ojulari is the whole package. You know what I mean? I don't see a glaring weakness. Yes, of course, there are things he can improve upon, but no glaring weakness in his game. He's an exciting player and another really high-end defensive prospect here in this class. Let's move on to your 6th overall selection, and you have Christian Gonzalez, cornerback that has obviously climbed boards here out of Oregon, landing in Detroit. This is the pick Detroit gets from the Rams in the Matthew Stafford trade.
Yeah, Christian Gonzalez. It's nice when you can get size with a guy who can move and be fluid,
right,
and be long, and play inside and outside at the position of corner, nickel, whatever you want to call it, in the slot. And he can tackle, and he has production. And so for me, in terms of the corner position,
all the boxes.
He checked all the boxes.
Yeah.
All the boxes. Yeah. Put him opposite Jeff Okudah. Bruh, let's run it, bro.
Yeah.
Let's run it.
Yeah, that's quite the 1-2 punch there on the defensive side of the ball there at corner. And and Christian Gonzalez, along with Jeff Okudah, who's turned the page. Obviously, he's figured it out. He's now playing at that upper echelon level that we were expecting him out of Ohio State. Of course, it takes players, rookies, young players, different times in terms of really to get their feet under them. And he certainly has taken to the coaching he's received from Aaron Glenn, who was a really excellent corner in his own right when he played. It just gives you so much flexibility from a defensive side of the, you can put those two guys on an island and feel relatively comfortable about what you're doing defensively and really make things difficult on the quarterback, being able to apply pressure and still be able to hold up on that back end. So I think this would be a great selection for Detroit. Of course, they have a 2nd first-round pick as well. Let's move on. Kind of gave it away a little bit already, but so you can see it, we have Houston, or rather Drew has Houston selecting Rashee Rice, his receiver number 1, his top receiver in this class. Of course, this may be another pick that folks may not necessarily, the masses may not necessarily get on board with. Why do you like Rashee Rice so much?
Well, first of all, he's a is it what do they call it? He's a Blitnikoff Award finalist, if you will.
Yes.
Along with I think it's along with another receiver I got here coming down. Well, I think he's towards the bottom, but he has the size as okay. So how we talk about Christian Gonzalez in terms of checking all the boxes, Rashee Rice almost checks all the boxes.
Right.
He has the size, his ability to go up and get the football. He's a good route runner. He's smart, savvy, kind of sits in the holes of the zone. He's not gonna run too far into a defender, and he's got the production that you want from the position as well. I know one of Headley's issues is, he's kind of playing, I'm not going to call it small school ball, but he's not playing too many Power 5 teams.
Yeah, group
right?
of 5. Yep.
So you want to see him against a little bit more competition, but he also has an ear about him, an attitude about him, man. It's like, it looks different. It looks different when I, when I look at everybody else. And that's something I look for in players in specific positions. And he seeps that aura. And I mean, if you're the guy on the team every week and you produce damn near every week,
right? And
people know it's just you, and you're still doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like you the guy, bro. So in Houston, outside of Brandon Cooks, I mean, they got a couple of guys who do things here and there, but they need consistency. Mm-hmm. And they don't have that guy that the quarterback can count on. When you talk about Bryce Young, he can do a lot with he can do a lot with a little bit. But let's see what he does. We know what it looks like when he has the weapons that he needs. It's spectacular. So Bryce Young, Rashee Rice, let's run it.
There you go. What really, you made mention of something that I really like about Rashee Rice. Obviously what stands out is the fact that he attacks the football and the great body control. I think that plays particularly outside the numbers. I like to see that in a Z or an X in particular, right? Out there on the boundary as a split end. but the feel he has in terms of sitting down in the zone and presenting his number to the quarterback, and that nuance you don't generally get from a lot of young receivers. That's something that they have to develop, and most guys don't ever get to that point. And he already has a feel for that. So I think that in of itself, and then the confidence that he plays with, will play at the next level. We a lot of scouts have made the mistake of scouting the helmet. Don't make the mistake. Now, whether or not he is receiver one across the board, that could be debated. I know CPGM Headley, has another guy at receiver one, but he's also pretty high on Rashee Rice. So Rashee Rice lands in Houston along with Bryce Young. So that's the Texans' 2 first-round selections. And with the 8th overall pick, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have struggled. They've struggled mightily, selecting Paris Johnson Jr., the offensive tackle from Ohio State. Now, we've talked about it ad nauseum over the last several years, Drew, in terms of the Steelers' offensive line and the struggles and the fact that they just have to commit the resources to it, right? They've tried a couple of different things, some later round picks, see if they'll develop, bring in a relatively inexpensive free agent here or there, because, the Steelers aren't necessarily spending big in free agency. That hasn't necessarily panned out. When they were at their best, they had one of the better offensive lines in the league. It's the most important position group, and Paris Johnson goes a long way to correcting that in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he does. I mean, you got Kenny Pickett, you got Najee Harris, you got George Pickens, and you have Deontay Johnson and
Freiermuth. You know what I mean?
Freiermuth, and y'all can't really consistently get the ball to those guys because we can't run. First of all, they can't run, terrible, and it's a struggle to pass the football, forward pass. And it's not because of the quarterbacks, because we can't protect the quarterback. And they went into this. I guess they went into the season thinking we're just gonna kind of hodgepodge this thing together, and it hasn't worked out. And everybody knew that. We all knew that. We knew what it was gonna be, But I guess they had to see it. We saw it. We don't like it. It's terrible. So we go out and we get a guy who's actually played guard for most of his college career, has moved out to tackle, where I was worried about, what is that going to look like? Has he
transition?
Developed, bad habits playing guard? And he has not. He actually looks really, really good. He's super athletic, and he does give you the versatility if things don't work out at tackle, which I think they will. You slide him in the guard. Not that, it wasn't the best, but I think he can play guard in the league if it comes to that. But he's tackle one for me right now. And Pittsburgh needs it, bro. Bad.
Yeah, bad. Whoever's your top rated offensive tackle, go get him. You know what I mean? Steelers fans have argued that, it's not the tackle position, it's the interior and vice versa, this, that, and the other. You can stand and improve at all 5 positions. That's my thought process. That's my thought process. You won't overhaul the entire offensive line, or perhaps they do. But certainly this is a good start here with Paris Johnson. With the 9th overall pick, you have the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting Joey Porter Jr., the cornerback from Penn State. Second corner off the board here. What do you like about Joey Porter? And the landing spot in Jacksonville here, there's some young talent on that defensive side of the ball there in Jacksonville. I like it a lot at the down line and the second level of the defense. But with this pick, it looks like here you feel like they need an injection of some more talent there at the 3rd level, in the secondary. Yeah,
man. Let's have star power at the 3 levels of the defense, man. Right. And Porter he's star power, man. One of his greatest abilities, and I always forget about it till I see it, man, is his ability to recover, man. I think it's huge, bro. And he's long and strong, physical, can play both inside and outside. And he's got that pedigree. That play, we know, you know what I'm saying? So he kind of knows what it looks like to play the position. And, the only thing I wanted from him this year was just a little bit more production, man. But hey, man, I guess I can't have everything, right? But he's played well. You know what I'm saying? He's matched it up against good receivers. He's got a short memory. He's gotten done a little bit here and there. You know what I'm saying? But he comes back, he competes. And that's kind of what you want from the cornerback position. And he has all the traits, you know what I'm saying? So, again, at Jacksonville, offensively, they're kind of coming together. They're coming together, man. That's a team on the rise. I know that the record ain't what they want it to be. That's a team on the rise, and I think one of the positions they're missing is cornerback. So,
all right, I like it. Rounding out your top 10 in your way too early mock draft, you have Tyree Wilson, edge, 5 technique, 4-3 down lineman, out of Texas Tech. Obviously, his star has risen quite a bit. The traits obviously are in place. What do you like about Wilson here, and why do you have him landing this early in the 1st round?
So a couple things to Philly, when you look at their roster, Howie Roseman has done a fantastic job in terms of bringing guys back on 1-year deals or creating doing the void year stuff where it's going to get us on the back end, but I'm going to be able to hold this team together. Continues to add defensive linemen. He did it this past week with Sue and Joseph. And you can never have too many pass rushers. They're going to lose guys, though, because guys are on 1-year deals or those void years. So they're going to lose guys, and they're going to need to replace those guys. And Tyree Wilson might be the freakiest of the freaks coming out. What's the I was trying to find him. I couldn't think of his name. He has his own freak list. Is it Brett?
I think it's Bruce Feldman.
Bruce Feldman. That's what it is. Yep. Bruce Feldman's freak list. I imagine this guy's at the top. I know he's on the list, but I imagine this guy's at the top. He is raw and he is strong, powerful. Listen, man. This guy's a beast, bro. And as far as I'm concerned right now, he's my number 3 defensive edge. I don't like him playing linebacker. I think you're putting a fish out of water doing that. I think you just need him to rush the passer. He defends the edge very well because he's very strong. He's speed to power to power type player. Just got to refine a couple of things. I think he does have a plan. Every play I thought initially, I don't know. He might be a little too raw, but he ain't that raw. He was fooling some guys. He was doing some things that I really, really liked. But there's a couple things I don't like about him. I think he needs to refine in terms of just being a little bit more aware of what's happening around him, being able to stop the draws, the screens, the cute plays that the offense likes to run.
Sure.
Use his speed against him a little bit.
Take his aggressiveness against him.
Yes.
Use it against him.
And one other thing that I saw is and I don't know if this is again, when I see this, I wonder if this is a scheme thing or if this is him. He's usually the last off the line of scrimmage, off the snap. So, and I think sometimes it is because he's trying to defend the run and he thinks it's a run. Other times, I think maybe he's just I don't know. Maybe that's a part of his plan. I guess I don't know. But outside of that, man, this is a guy. He's a top quality brand of clay that you're about to mold.
Sure. Absolutely. I think there's some work, some refinement, as you mentioned, that needs to be done. One question for you: what about the concern regarding the motor? How concerned are you with that? I mean, that's not something that I want to have to question when we're dealing with a top 10 pick at all. When you watch the film Eye in the Sky, what do you see in terms of the effort?
I don't. Be honest with you, I don't. Effort wise, I think he's fine, bro. I don't see anything where there's an effort issue. I didn't see anything. If somebody sees something I didn't see, please let me know. Let me know the
there's been a few. There's been a few. Little smoke there with respect to that. But in your evaluation, that hasn't reared its ugly head. So. No. All right, we have Tyree Wilson rounding out the top 10, landing in Philly. So with that being said, we moved on to the 11th and 12th overall picks, and you have Jordan Addison, Green Bay actually going receiver in the first round. Very talented receiver who transferred from Pittsburgh, last year's Biletnikoff Award winner. He's now in USC, obviously putting up huge numbers there. And then Arizona addressing their offensive line with Olu Fashanu. Really young, albeit incredibly talented Penn State offensive tackle here. Your thoughts on these two players and their respective landing spots here in your mock draft?
Yeah, Jordan Addison is just a guy you got to get him the football, man. This isn't a guy who can just catch balls behind the line of scrimmage, bubble screens, and get cute. He's a guy who runs routes very well. Obviously, like you said, he's the Biletnikoff Award winner from the previous season. A guy who can turn a bad ball into a good ball. And you kind of saw his abilities on display with Caleb Williams, who's a fantastic quarterback. Yeah. Might be quarterback one when it's time for him to come out. Yeah. And I think he's special. You know what I'm saying? In terms of, leaning towards a Patrick Mahomes in terms of his ability to play the position at quarterback. And, I think Alan Lazard, I don't think he's coming back. If I'm him, I'm not coming back to Green Bay. They got some things going on there. They need to get it fixed and adjusted. And I think Addison is kind of when you put him, Christian Watson, you put Romeo Doubs, you put those guys, you're talking about a bunch of explosive players together, man. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's what Green Bay has been missing. And it's kind of coming together for those guys, man, but they need another guy, a reliable guy, be where he's supposed to be, because I'm not necessarily sure Aaron can completely trust Watson with the drops and Doubs to be where he's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Addison I think he's a complete package. I think he would be the best receiver between those three on
Yeah.
that team. You know what I'm saying? So,
But you know, before you move on to Olufashinu, I think Addison in that receiver room is really interesting, right? You made mention of some of the challenges Christian Watson has had. Obviously, he's flashier as of late.
yes.
And then, of course, Romeo Doubs was kind of the darling coming out of training camp and really was Aaron Rodgers' best receiver at the beginning of the season. Again, young players, they grow, they develop at different intervals. We have this tendency to expect these guys to be world beaters right out the gate. And it doesn't always work out that way. In fact, historically, it rarely worked out that way. You know what I mean? I think because of the fact that the ball is being thrown around a lot more, these kids are being developed as receivers at a younger age. You see more guys being able to make an immediate impact, but that isn't necessarily always the case. You add Addison to that group, and I think you get a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I think you get a really nice, you know, a blend of everything. Like you said, every guy can make a play who can score a touchdown, find end zone from anywhere on the field. So, yeah, I think with Addison kind of leading the charge there, you have a really unique receiver room. And, of course, Lazard, as you mentioned, likely on his way out. And Randall Cobb can't play forever either. Sammy Watkins looks like he's on his last leg. I mean, it really does. It looks like he's struggling to move. You know what I mean? And I think this is the type of you know, commitment, you know, the use of resources, investment necessary in order to make that passing game more viable. You know what I mean? They've had so much success, Green Bay has, over the years, day 2, day 3, finding guys. And, of course, you had quarterback play that kind of raised it up. Rodgers is not the same player. You're going to have to get better around him. If you want to capitalize, if Rodgers decides to continue to play, whether it's Rodgers at the helm or Jordan Love or whomever, you want to make sure that they're outfitted with, you know, the requisite weapons. Absolutely.
Yeah, and next up we got Arizona selecting Olufashinu, and the youngest, he might be the youngest guy in the draft, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be 19 when he's drafted.
Bruh, what?
Yeah.
So that speaks to his intelligence, right? He's athletic. He's a good blend of athleticism and strength. And I think when you look at him again, I like to liken players to Clay. This is a guy who we can figure this thing out, right? We can not figure this thing out. We got time. We got time with him because he's 19, right? And he's a guy who's actually playing very, very well. When you talk about the Big Ten and all the edge players that are coming out, when you talk about a Zach Harrison, you're talking about a Jacoby Wyndham, you're talking about a couple of other players. Thinking
Michigan.
Michigan. It's just guys coming out of the Big Ten in terms of the edge players that he's going up against, and he's faring very, very well against. I mean, and again, Arizona could have gone defense here. I was thinking Tyree Wilson, but I was like, nah, I can't let him drop out of the top 10, you know, and so I went offensive line here because we do need to continue to protect Kyler Murray, and we'll figure out the defensive stuff later because this is a team that needs an edge rusher as well as I think they also need a corner.
Fashanu could very well be the first tackle off the board. You know, they're going to be a healthy number of teams, perhaps even the majority of NFL teams that have him as a top prospect, considering what his ceiling can be. Paris Johnson's a bit cleaner to this juncture. He's obviously not an old man, but certainly Fashanu is really young. He's really young, and there's some flashes of, you know, Ike Ekwonu, who obviously went very early in last year's draft here in terms of what Fashanu could be ultimately. So really interesting, intriguing, and very talented prospect there, landing in Arizona. The next two selections you have Detroit on the clock once again. This is their own pick. Of course, the pick that they made earlier where they landed Christian Gonzalez was part of the trade to acquire, or rather the Rams acquiring Matthew Stafford. You have them selecting Trenton Simpson, very talented second-level defender, followed by Indianapolis finally addressing the quarterback position, and C.J. Stroud. And I know a lot of our viewers probably don't think C.J. Stroud's going to be available to this point. Of course, Drew has made it very clear how he feels about C.J. Stroud. I just want to make one mention. Before you get into Simpson and Stroud, I just want to make one mention. You know, I have a family member who is a very, you know, staunch Ohio State Buckeye fan. And, you know, he says the same thing you say, Drew. C.J. Stroud needs to understand when there's green grass, go get it. You know what I mean? And I believe that's something that can be taught. The question is really going to be whether or not Stroud can be effective consistently outside of structure. I think that's the main question with respect to CJ Stroud. I think in terms of him being able to, you know, extend a drive by using his legs as opposed to always trying to make it happen from the pocket, I think he can adjust to that. I'm completely fine with that. I think that's a slight adjustment in terms of being a little bit more aggressive in that nature. But as far as making plays outside of structure, that to me is why I'm going to go with Bryce Young over CJ Stroud to this point.
Yeah, I would agree. I definitely would agree. I was going to start with Stroud, but no, we'll go in order. Trenton Simpson, I'm just looking for a splash guy for Detroit, man, on defense. And let's do it at the second level where he can affect both the line of scrimmage and, on the back end. And this is a guy, he is form of the new age linebacker, sideline to sideline, slips under blocks, can beat offensive guards, tackles to the spot. And he can make plays, wherever you need him to make plays. If we want to get cute on defense, we can get cute with him. You know what I'm saying? So, I heard a couple of people like kind of likening him into the role of what they were using Isaiah Simmons for that Clemson defense. I don't know if that's quite what they were doing with him, but he's very good at blitzing. Clemson has a bunch of guys up front that are very good that are probably
NFLers.
A
bunch of NFLers.
I guarantee you one of them will probably go in the first round. I guarantee you, and the rest will probably go in the second round. They're all good, but he's playing behind those guys, and they play some games up front, and he was looking good coming downhill, blitzing, timing things up, and causing havoc in the backfield. And he can play coverage, man. He can cover those tough tight ends that seem to be a problem from week to week to depending on who you're playing for the week. And I think he's a guy who can also run with some receivers, not all receivers, but some receivers in the slot. So he kind of gives you that in terms of versatility. And then CJ Stroud, I mean, you said it. They just need a quarterback, bro. Matt Ryan's over the hill. Is it Ellinger? Ellinger, excuse me, Sam Ellinger. Yeah. It just I mean, that's not it. They did the Carson Wentz thing. Like we just need a guy.
Phillip Rivers.
We've done it. We've seen it. We've tried it. We thought it was going to work. Hell, I thought it was going to work, and it's just not working. And you can blame the coach. Do whatever you want to do in terms of all that, right? The quarterback play didn't look good,
right.
Period. I don't care what you want to say about the coach, the play calls, whatever. The quarterback didn't look good. And I think CJ Stroud here, with the weapons that they have, like you said earlier, I just need to stop trying to shoot the three, bro. Just take the layup. Just take the layup. It's fine, bro. And again, we talking about we want that the high percentage plays. You know what I'm saying? Take it. Don't because in the NFL and in college you can get away with that because the team on the other side is not as talented as you are, so you can make it for those mistakes. In the league, you can't, bro. We gotta have that. We gotta have that high percentage. We gotta take the layups. We gotta take the dunks. We gotta take the 5-footer, bro. Like we need that, right? And I think he has to understand it. I agree with you in terms of that's something that's easy that you think, hey, I need you to understand this. You have to do this. This can't be a thing where you're looking downfield. I appreciate that you're looking downfield. I appreciate that. But you're going to drive everyone crazy if you can't get us the 5 yards we need that's sitting in front of you because you're trying to throw it 20 yards down the field to the guy who's, screaming across the field, who is turns it into you have a play where it could be 100%. This is the first down versus that's a 40% chance that play is going to get completed. You know what I mean? So just and then I said it earlier in terms of the offense he's coming from. I'm not trying to scout the helmet. But there is an understanding. I think there is an understanding when you're looking at Ohio State quarterbacks that the receivers are wide open. They just
more often than not,
right? It's
more often than not. Right? I agree with you. But I that he's the guy. He's the quarterback coming out of Ohio State that I'm
least worried about when it comes to that.
I mean, he will put it right past the defender's ear hole, right, and thread that needle. You know what I mean? I think. Just in terms of arm talent and ball placement, you talk about Jaren Hall. CJ Stroud to me is up there with the likes of Bryce Young. You know what I mean? They could put the ball wherever they want to, but like I said, to your point, there are going to be opportunities for a sure thing. You know what I'm saying? And I get it. It's touchdown to first down. I completely understand touchdown to first down, but especially in the league where the parity becomes that much more. The level of competition, the disparities, that shrinks. And in all likelihood, he's going to go to a team that obviously doesn't have everything in place either. So,
True.
so what happens in those circumstances is that you have to be able to make some plays off script. Things aren't going to always go well. You're going to have issues along the offensive line. You may not necessarily have receivers that are consistently creating separation. So while he does a phenomenal job of playing within structure, he can put the ball anywhere. He can put the ball between the eyes of a fly. You know what I'm saying? He's that good. He's that good when he throws that football and he's in rhythm. It's those plays that don't necessarily always show up in the box score that I'd like to see him improve upon.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So we have Trent Simpson, really talented linebacker, landing in Detroit, 13th overall, followed by C.J. Stroud to the Colts, followed by 15th overall, Peter Skoronski, tackle from Northwestern. Atlanta, obviously, their offensive line is probably going to look a bit different next year. Some expiring contracts this upcoming season as well as 2024. And then you have the Chargers, I guess, finally really putting forth the resources in order to get better against the run. I thought they did a decent job, a quality job. I'll give them a little bit more credit.
Yeah, I would give them that.
I think injuries continue to be an issue, which really has kind of torpedoed their run defense. But Siaka Ika, his ability to just control things at the point of attack, a true nose tackle. Maybe Jordan Davis may have started something. He may have started something here with those interior defensive linemen who aren't necessarily known for affecting the passer, going relatively early in the draft here in the first round. So Skoronski to Atlanta, Siaka Ika to the Chargers, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, for Atlanta, man, it's just get players that we can add to this team to continue to improve the team. You know, this is a team who's in a weak division right now, who has an opportunity to actually make the playoffs, make a run here a little bit. And I think just improving the offensive line, because excuse me, I was thinking quarterback for them, but I mean, they have Marcus Mariota. I'm not sure what the deal is there, but I know that they like him, you know what I'm saying, in terms of the offense that they run there too. And then you have Desmond Ridder, who they drafted last year, who's still on the roster. Haven't seen him. I know Headley would have liked to have seen him play at some point, especially when Mariota was doing Mariota things, as Headley would like to say. So, it's just grabbing, I think, maybe the best player on the board at this point. I don't know. I haven't finalized my board or anything, but I figure let's improve the offensive line. And this is a team who they put so much stock into the past couple of years. I think they were the team at one point who had, I think, all 5 offensive linemen were first round picks. Something stupid, something crazy like that, man. Mm-hmm. And so this is a team, that they're not.
It's the identity. It's their identity with Arthur Smith as well. What I mean? They want to control the line of scrimmage, be physical up front. So certainly their identity. Yeah.
And Skoronski is, for some people, he's actually their tackle 1. And I've seen where they're saying, hey, he actually might even be a guard. You know what I'm saying? And I think I had him as a guard before I saw him back at tackle this season. And I think they're saying his arms may be an issue.
The length.
But the length. But I don't know if it's a problem. I don't know if it's that big of a problem, but I guess we'll do some more evaluation, figure that out. And then for Ika, listen, like you said earlier, them boys was marshmallowy up the middle. They took, they said, hey, we're gonna try to fix this off season. I thought they did a pretty damn good job, but like you said, injuries, and we know. Bro, I done told people they don't want to listen to me, bro. I guess they're gonna continue to do what they've been doing for the past, I don't know how many years, and not listen and not change the color of the bolt. That is your problem. Change the color of the bolt and things will change. But until then, your fortunes will change. Yes. But right now, nope. But I'm gonna still try though. I want to see if I can say his name completely because I wrote it phonetically. Let me see if I can get it right, bro. Okay. I got Siaki. That's what I got. First name. Siaki is what I have. Siaki. All right. Yeah. Siaki. Yeah. Siaki. Ika is what I have. Ika, not Ika. 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 That's what I have. Yeah. Okay. That's what I have. Yeah. So, he is similar to Vita Vea, in terms of his power, in terms of him being able to take on double teams. We know the Chargers they like to run that. It's not quite 2 gaps. It's kind of gap and a half, or gap. They can get cute over there with your boy, but
Stop it.
Right. So you have to have that guy up front, and I think he is that guy for them. I think that the one thing that you don't quite get that you get with Diaz is he's not quite the pass rusher. But if you're like you said, if what you're looking for is a guy to just take up space and own his gaps so that everyone behind him can eat, then he's the guy. And also, he may not be a first round pick, or he might be at the bottom of the first round, right? But I need people to understand that this type of tackle is in vogue now. It's coming back.
It's coming back. It's cyclical. It's cyclical. Right. As you're seeing teams, running more 21 personnel, running power and ISO. It had been so much duo and outside zone, inside zone that you needed guys who could just flow, east and west, left to right. But now, teams are getting downhill again. You're getting trapped, you're getting wham, you're getting belly. You know what I'm saying? Like guys are getting north and south, and we joke about it all the time, but I say it once, I guess, a month at this point. Is that you have a generation of defenders and linebackers who don't know what to do when a team is in the eye, when they have a fullback, a lead blocker. They have no idea how to approach that. They don't stack and shed. Most guys don't stack and shed anymore. So you definitely need a guy up front who can really make things difficult on the interior of that offensive line and help your linebackers, your second level defenders flow to the football. So yeah, I'm with you there. Certainly things are cyclical, and that big greasy nose tackle is once again in vogue. And Ika is the best of the bunch in the 2023 class. And of course, Jerry Tillery, a relatively recent first round selection for the Chargers, they cut bait. They let him go. They pulled the plug on that. So, I think they like my guy, Otito. You know what I'm saying? Yep. They do like him, but of course he got hurt. So they definitely need to get things situated up front in the interior of that defensive line. All right, we move right along. We have the 17th overall pick, Washington, the Commanders, going quarterback. I know you like your guy Heineke. I know you like him. But Anthony Richardson is just too talented an option here to pass up. And then with the 18th overall pick, perhaps a little bit of a surprise for folks. I got the 19th slipped in there as well. Cedric Tillman, you're adding him to that receiver room. I guess the Corey Davis experiment is over, so we go with Cedric Tillman to pair up with Garrett Wilson. Maybe Elijah Moore sticks around, who knows? And then Osiris Torrance, interior offensive lineman from Florida. Gators.
Gotta get my Gator guys in there. You know what I'm saying? Only first two guys, possible first rounders. But Anthony Richardson, AR as was calling him. Ron Rivera's not, he knows what that kind of player looks like when you talk about a Cam Newton. It's just it was just low hanging fruit. Forgot to take it. Carson Wentz. It's just you're just kind of biding your time until that kind of runs out. I don't know. It was a bad deal for them. Don't know what they were thinking. Just cut bait and let's get this thing with Anthony Richardson and those receivers that they have. I think the Washington offense might look crazy good with this guy out there for them. It's just, for me, it's another guy that I just want to see him play more football. I don't think he's coming out, but if he does come out and the Commanders have an opportunity to grab him, I think you have to do that because the talent, bro.
I like it. Drew, and I'll tell you why. I like it. Not to say that I didn't like Sam Howell. He was a day 3 pick for Washington last year, but it's Heineke. As much as Richardson needs to play, it's kind of a catch-22 with Anthony Richardson, right? He needs more reps. This is his first full year starting, right? He needs more reps. But in the same token, I think there's something to be said about making sure that the rest of the team is in place. They certainly have the weapons on the perimeter. The offensive line, get the backfield fleshed out, but learning how to prepare, right? Learning how to get himself ready week in and week out, understanding what it takes. Because given the flashes of brilliance, I don't think there's any question regarding his ability to play at the next level. But if you can afford to, and I think they can with Heineke in place, assuming he's in place, you don't have to rush Richardson out there. You know what I mean? And this is a team that is playing well. You know what they have defensively. They're going to be able to compete on that side of the ball. You don't have to rush him. But when he's ready, and it could be It could be opening week of 2023. It could be 2 months in. Whenever he's ready, right? You unleash him. And he's going to create another element to your offense. But I think that the built-in advantage you have here is that you don't have to play him right away, but you're able to secure a very, very impressive talent, perhaps the most talented quarterback in this class.
Yeah, and you can get cute, kind of how the 49ers was treating Trey Lance in terms of bringing him in here, there, goal line situations, short yardage situations, just to get his feet wet, whatnot. But
absolutely.
With the Jets, I like I said, I think the and like you said, the Corey Davis thing, I think it's kind of going to run its course here, and you're getting a more explosive player in Cedric Tillman, a more productive player. I think that he'll be in the league. It's a guy who's still producing, even though he's had injuries this year, and I think he is the type of receiver that can give you your intermediate to deep, while you have Garrett Wilson, who can kind of do, a guy who could take a 6-yard route, take it to the house. And then you got Braxton Berrios, who is just Mr. Reliable, being where he's supposed to be in terms of playing out of the slot. So you kind of got a different receiver for each, from each player in terms of their type. And I think, I don't know if Zach Wilson will be the guy, if it's Mike White, if it's whoever it is, Joe Flacco, whoever it is, that's the quarterback for them. But, they just, and what's going on with you said his name earlier, the other receiver that we never see. Oh my gosh.
Elijah Moore.
Elijah Moore. Yeah. I'm not really sure what's the plan, what's going on with him there, but I just, they need a little bit more star power, a little bit more excitement from the receiver position. I think Cedric Tillman will give them that, man.
You made mention of Elijah Moore and his situation. It's been a very tumultuous year. He hasn't received many opportunities. That there was a week where I guess effectively he was dismissed. They didn't necessarily put it out there like that, but healthy scratch. He wasn't with the team, what have you, was going through it. Whatever the case may be, asked for a trade, this, that, and the other. Yep. It's not unlike the Denzel Mims situation. We had been waiting for Denzel Mims, you know what I'm saying? And I think this is me speculating. I'm sure Jets fans have their finger on the pulse here, but I'm speculating that he may not necessarily have been practicing or doing the things that the coaching staff wanted of him. And I do believe they want their receivers to be interchangeable, right? To know all the positions.
Gotcha.
The X, the Z, the Y. They want to know all the positions, and perhaps that had not been in place. I'm not sure. That's speculation. I believe that was the case with Denzel Mims. It may have been something similar. Of course, they have issues at quarterback. They're going to have to get that fleshed out. I don't believe they're going to quit on Zach Wilson. The second overall pick, I doubt they pull the plug on him. But hopefully his benching, gives him some perspective. And of course, if you add Cedric Tillman to a very young, very talented offensive or receiver room, that offense, which has a lot of young players, young talented players, assuming they tweak that offensive line, could be really explosive in 2023. And then of course you have O'Cyrus Torrence here with the Bucs.
Yeah, they're talking about he's probably the number one guard in the country. They're probably right. It's a guy who's played, I think, right tackle, right guard, left guard for Louisiana, and it's a guy coming from I think it's the Sun Belt Conference.
Yeah.
Moving over to the SEC where the big boys are, and he hasn't missed a beat, man. And so it's just can he? It's one of those things where you'd like to see players who play for a lesser league to go to a stronger league and find out, okay, can he do it? And yeah, he can do it. And he's extremely intelligent. He's not a guy you're going to be able to play games up front. He recovers after being beat. He's good at doing that. So I think that this would be a good addition for the Bucs, assuming that I know they drafted some guys last year, they drafted some guys. They drafted a guy last year, and I think it's Gadecki. I think is how you say his last name.
Yeah.
Who's he's been a disaster, and I know part of that is because Ryan Jensen isn't playing center, but the center for the Bucs has actually played well.
Sure.
So but I mean, he was a swinging door. They lost a couple games purely because of that position. The guy they have there right now, and Nick Leverett, is actually playing well, but this is assuming obviously things don't work out at left guard, and this is a plug-and-play player. Let's get it go.
All right. With the 20th and 21st picks in Drew's way too early mock draft 3.0, you have the Denver Broncos with their second of 2 first-round selections, selecting Jalen Duncan, the offensive tackle from Maryland. Very talented, athletic tackle there. He has some question marks, but certainly he has the traits, the desired traits. And with the 21st overall pick, Seattle, and making the second of their 2 first-round selections, you have them going back to the defensive line with Derek Hall. So you went B.J. Ojulari in the top 10, and then you're following that up with another edge player here in Derek Hall from Auburn.
Yeah, and Jalen Duncan, real quick, I was watching the Tyree Wilson go against NC State, just watching him, and bro, he was blowing guys. I'm like, bro, is Jalen Duncan getting like? Do I need to move him down? Like, what's going on here? Every play, bro. And then I checked the numbers. I was like, oh, that's not him. He wasn't playing. I was like, all right, I'm good. I feel good. My heart was hurt, bro. Like, I don't. What happened here, bro? But no, Jalen Duncan, like you said, I think he has all the tools that you want in terms of, all the traits that you want from the position. Just has just a couple of things that he needs to refine from the position. I think he'd be a good addition to the Denver offensive line, because I know they do need help up front there. Yeah. Because Russell Wilson's going to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. One, because he can't see over the line of scrimmage, over the offensive line, and 2, because that's just kind of what he does. So you're gonna need that extra tick, extra second, and Jalen Duncan would give him that. And then Derek Hall, like you said, I went back to the edge outside linebacker position. And the thing I like about Derek Hall, he might be between him and Will Anderson. I think they might be the most versatile when you talk about edge/outside linebacker in terms of what you do. Derek Hall was the moving piece within that Auburn defense. He was the guy. Him and Kobe Wood were the guys that they would kind of move around. More so, Derek Hall, he was the guy you had to kind of,
identify him.
Where is he? Yeah. Where is 29? You know what I'm saying? And so I think that Seattle can get a little cute with him, do some things with him. But when you talk about all the players that they have on that defense, and by the way, yes, he can defend the run. He can do it all from the edge or outside linebacker position. He can play in coverage. Dude's outstanding, man. And I think this might be a guy who's going to actually blow up the combine, to be honest with you.
All right. 22nd, 23rd picks, you have Quentin Johnston. Perhaps a lot of people's receivers won because of some of the vacancies that we've had. Obviously he has that size speed component that is coveted. You have him landing in New England. Of course, New England has been looking for that alpha in the receiver room. And then Clark Phillips, a corner that really gets his hand on the ball quite a bit, out of Utah, landing in Cincinnati, a position of need for them.
Yeah. So Quentin Johnston, I always struggle when I'm getting to the Johnston part because it's usually Johnson, but Johnston, he's a big play threat, man. And for the past couple of mocks, I had Jackson, Smith, and Jigba going there. Or did I say it backwards? What? Yes, I said it right. Okay. Yeah. And the reason I had him going there for New England, didn't matter where they were picking, is because he's reliable in terms of being where he's supposed to be. Looks like he's a pretty savvy, smart player. Not that Johnston isn't, but Johnston is a bigger big play threat type of guy. And it's a guy who you can throw the little screen pass to, or it's a guy you can give him a 6, get it down this field 12 yards, and he can bust it hit his head on the goalpost. And I think New England is missing that type of player. And I think he gives them that juice in terms of the wide receiver position. And then in terms of Cincinnati, just trying to get them boys a corner, man. They need another corner on the opposite side. If you want to continue to run with Eli Apple, that's fine. But I'm going to get you a more productive, more skilled. I think he's a little raw, but I think he's a guy who you can refine to be one of the top corners in the league at some point during his career.
Wuzier had been playing really well for the Bengals. He gets hurt. You got the Eli Apple situation, and he's been up and down. There have been times where he's played really well, and other times where you're wondering, scratching your head, what's going on with him. Clark Phillips, and then of course I'm forgetting his name, but they got a really nice nickel corner there as well in Cincinnati. I think he really solidifies that back end as far as the cornerback position is concerned. That'd be a quality selection here in the latter parts of the first round. Moving on, we have the 24th overall pick, Buffalo, landing a running back. Yeah. The running back, Bijan Robinson from Texas, followed up by Baltimore, who gets Kelee Ringo. I don't know how they do it. They continue to get a stud. No matter where they're drafting, they end up with a stud. So Bijan Robinson to Buffalo, Kelee Ringo, cornerback from Georgia to Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, this is simply, Buffalo doesn't have too many holes in the defense, on the team. Excuse me, I was thinking about your boy.
Sure.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking about, but they don't have too many holes on the team in general, and I think this would be too good to pass up. At this point in the draft, best running back I think in a very, very long time, and they love to throw the football over there in Buffalo, bro. And this is a guy I know they drafted, James Cook, but Bijan Robinson gives you the best of both worlds in terms of he can be a receiver and he can be a running back. And the fact that they went out and they were thinking about or putting feelers out there, whatever they was doing to try to see what was up with Christian McCaffrey tells me that they're looking for a more explosive, sexy running back. And you know what better do that than Bijan Robinson? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I wouldn't hate to see Jahmyr Gibbs here either. I'm with you. Bijan Robinson is the first back off the board, but he wasn't available. Gibbs would be a part of the conversation, a consideration here as well. One point I want to make regarding Robinson before you move on is I think Bijan might be the guy that convinces Buffalo, Ken Dorsey, to run the football more. You know, I like Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary is a good player. Bijan Robinson is a superior player, right? And if you have the luxury to pick a player like that in what is already a pretty explosive offense, the one area that they've really struggled is the red zone. And I think they may actually be compelled to give Robinson some carries there in the red zone, which will make them that much more effective, make their play action more effective. You know, I think there's with a guy like that, especially in terms of what he can do out of the backfield in the passing game, they become so much more dynamic. You know what I mean? You kind of get a sense of what Buffalo wants to do. Even though they haven't done it to this point, you get a sense of what they're trying to get to with James Cook, because his strength is his ability out the backfield in the passing game, right? Being a receiver, that is his strength. Whereas Singletary is a better ball carrier. He's a more, natural ball carrier. Robinson gives you the best of both worlds and some. You know what I mean? And I think he could really be the key to unlock Buffalo's red zone offense.
I mean, you can put him and Cook on the field at the same time if you want to.
It's true. You know it's true.
So,
there's so many different things. You can flex Bijan out. You can flex Cook out. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things you can do there. Absolutely.
And you said it earlier in terms of Baltimore, things just kind of happen for them.
It just happens for them.
Yeah, I don't know if they got if they have,
it's
left arm, rabbit's foot. It's Ozzy. That's what it is. Okay.
Yes.
Keely Ringo for the Ravens. Just looking at their roster in terms of who's in, out, who's going to be there next year, and I don't know that they bring back Marcus Peters. You know what I'm saying? But they don't have to. Sure. With all the corners that are coming out, this is a guy that they could add immediately, and he'd fit right in with what they want to do on defense. He can play the man coverage, physical, feisty, nice hips, turn and run, attacks the football. Or you could play some zone. He can read and react. He's quick twitch, can close things down pretty quickly. So, he's kind of the best of both worlds in terms of the corner position. I don't know that. I think he played a little bit in the slot, not this past year, but the year before. Yep. But I think I would want him on the boundary on the outside if it's me.
All right. Robinson and Ringo off the board with the 26th and 27th picks in Drew's 2023 NFL mock draft. You have Zay Flowers, perhaps a bit of a surprise there. Zay Flowers landing with Tennessee. They obviously need some help in terms of their passing game. And then Jared Verse, the transfer from Albany. He has made a huge splash with the Florida State Seminoles. Yep. You have him being taken 27th overall by the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and I just like the fit here with Zay Flowers in terms of the receivers they have already for the Titans. In terms of, was it the Kyle Phillips receiver? Yeah, I think he's injured right now, but he gives you that kind of slot feel type of receiver. Catch a ball and take it 40 yards. And then you have Treylon Burks, who is, he's kind of coming into his own as a receiver. He played well against Green Bay. I know there's a lot of doubters, and he's kind of raw, this, that, and the other, but he's kind of coming into his own. So I think Zay Flowers, and I think we talked about this earlier with two other teams in terms of Green Bay, and you're talking about the Jets in terms of just having different types of receivers on the team. And I think Zay Flowers, who's also a Blitnikoff finalist, is a guy who is a big play threat. I think actually all three receivers, now that I'm thinking about it, are all kind of big play threat guys. Get them the ball in space and they can make things happen. But Zay Flowers can do it at all three levels. He's short area quickness, can separate very well, and he concentrate and catch the ball down the football field. So I think that, when you talk about the big arm, that is
Malik Willis.
Yep. You got your receivers, bro. I'm trying to help you out, bro. You got the running back in the backfield. Now you got your receivers. Let's get it.
All right.
And then for Jared Verse, in terms of Dallas, man, we just add more star power to that D line. You can get real cute now. I know Sam Williams is kind of coming into his own for Dallas, and maybe some people are screaming, "Hey, go offensive line," but I don't think you can pass up Jared Verse here. And I have a feeling he's actually not going to fall this far. I think he may go higher than people think. When you talk about Jermaine Johnson, who just kind of went to the Senior Bowl, did his thing, and he rose up the ranks. And what did he go in the draft? Was it 11?
I think it was 27th.
27. Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
Maybe we're right here then.
Yeah.
Maybe right here. And Jared Verse is a better player, by the way.
All right. Moving on. 28th overall, you have Josh Downs. So I thought I might see Downs go before Flowers. I thought that might happen, but it didn't. You have Josh Downs landing in New York. Of course, they certainly could use some help in their receiving room.
Yeah, and this is where, because I was looking at these two guys, and I was like, it was going to be a receiver, one of the receivers for the Titans. I was like, I can't just because Josh Downs is higher on my board than Zay Flowers, I can't just throw Josh Downs in there because, I think Josh Downs is the best slot in the country coming out, and I think you would do him a disservice by trying to put him outside. I think you're wasting him there. He's absolutely dominant in the slot. He's hard to cover, hard to get a hold of. Smart, savvy off the line of scrimmage. If you try to press him, good hands, tracks the ball well. He's fast. He will set you up if it's a linebacker, if it's a safety, if it's a corner. I think the only way to stop this guy is actually get hands on him, right? And it's hard to do that, right? Because he's got a plan, right? So I think he fits well for the Giants because you're talking about they got a bunch of receivers hurt, man. Them boys just dropping like flies. And I think you have to add another receiver in the receiver room, and I think he's gonna give you what Kadarius Toney couldn't for whatever reason. I don't know what the heck was going on there, but they traded him away, and I think Josh Downs is gonna give you that, or what Sterling Shepard didn't give you with more juice.
All right, I really like Josh Downs. I'm really impressed with what he's done over the last couple of seasons. 29th pick forfeited by the Miami Dolphins for tampering. Minnesota with the 30th overall pick. You have them selecting Tre'Vius Hodges-Tomlinson. Now, this may come as a surprise. Could be another curveball here, 12-6 curve, big hook, but very good player. Very, very talented player. The cousin of LaDainian Tomlinson, Hall of Famer LaDainian Tomlinson. You have that corner landing in Minnesota. Kansas City, giving some more teeth to their pass rush with Isaiah Foskey, edge out of Notre Dame, who's really turned it on over the last month and a half or so. And then the final pick in Drew's 2023 NFL mock draft, way too early, version 3.0, Noah Sewell, linebacker from Oregon, landing with the Eagles. So let's go back to Tomlinson. Let's talk Tomlinson a little bit, and then we'll roll into Foskey and Sewell.
Yeah, Minnesota, and I always appreciate teams who continue to try to draft and bring in guys to cover a deficiency. I can always appreciate that, and we're going to continue to do that here. I know that Patrick Peterson said he ain't done and all that. I got you, B. I understand, but at some point you're going to have to pack it in, and you're going to have a guy that's going to come behind you. And Hodges-Tomlinson is a smaller corner, but he's feisty. He will go up and get the football. I think he's going to surprise people come combine time in terms of his speed and his ability to jump out the gym. And he can play in the slot or he can play outside. A quick twitch guy who attacks the football, man. So I think he'd be a good addition for the Minnesota Vikings. And then Foskey, who I thought this guy was going to come out the gate balling. Thought he was going to be, within my top three edge players. Didn't quite do that. Came on late towards the end of the season. You started to see what I saw in terms of the tape, in terms of getting in the backfield, causing havoc. And I think he's the type of player who he may not. I want to say he's going to be productive, man, but I'm starting to feel like he's probably going to be a player where he's not going to have a bunch of. There's not going to be a bunch of numbers to him, but it's going to be a guy you're going to say he's going to cause an errant pass, or he's going to be a guy that turns things back inside. You know what I'm saying? So he's going to be a guy that's going to be wanted and needed, and it's not going to show up on the stat sheet, right?
Okay.
I think that's who he may be. Maybe I'm wrong. He needs to develop more in terms of pass rush moves, and he's got to get stronger in terms of playing on the defensive line. And I think he's okay playing the outside linebacker role. I just don't think that's where he should be living because he is long. He does get his hands on someone's in the slot. He's not going to let you run free or anything like that. But I think I prefer him rushing the passer. And then just
before you get to Sewell, I gotta ask: Is Tomlinson this year's Roger McCreary?
Ooh.
Yeah, you like that? You like that,
huh? I'm not gonna right now. No,
okay.
I think he's gonna get more love than McCreary.
Okay.
So I don't quite think that because there was a lot of people down on McCreary, but it was hating, bro.
Yeah,
he was hating.
Definitely
hating. But it's possible. We'll see. But Noah Sewell, linebacker out of Oregon. I think he would fit well in terms of what the Eagles want to do. I think, I was talking trash about the Eagles defense in terms of them being very zony. They just zone up. We'll die by 1,000 cuts. I think they've kind of made some adjustments, been a little bit more of attacking style defense, kind of mix it up. I think they're still zone heavy, but I think
they have better personnel too.
Yes,
they have better personnel.
That is true.
Yep.
That is true. Yep. Maybe he was protecting the defense from themselves with the personnel they had. And this is a team that's stacked. I think when you look at this team in terms of what they need, at the linebacker position is something they need badly. I think there's two guys, can't think of their names, that I think they have 1 year left on their deal. Don't know if they're coming back, but I can only imagine Noah Sewell is going to be better than both of those guys because he's super instinctual. When he sees ball, gets ball, and he's outstanding in coverage, which you have to have at least one linebacker on the field that can do that, can cover guys in the slot or just be where he's supposed to be in his zone, feel things out. Things are happening behind him, get in the spot of the window that the quarterback wants to throw the ball. And I think Sewell gives you that.
All right. That's going to do it. That's going to do it for Drew's 2023 NFL mock draft. Way too early mock draft 3.0. Yep. Let him know what you think of his draft selections in this mock, this Thanksgiving Black Friday version of a mock. Is he crazy for going Jaren Hall, number 2 overall, Rashee Rice being the top receiver? Let him know. Let him know down in the comments. And as always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.